I want to give a short talk on the fundamentals of efficiency for this purpose. These fundamentals hold true in America just like they hold true in China. And whenever we focus on these fundamentals and apply them, we have been successful. And when we have lost sight of them, that's when we start getting into difficulties. And therefore, I want to go over a little bit on how to apply them and what they are. Right? So, the concept that I'm going to use to explain them, thank you, is the concept of infinity logic. And there's the Aristotle kind of logic, the finite logic of yes, no, right, wrong, black, white, which has a workability, but it's limited. Yeah? Whereas infinity logic opens up to the possibilities of gradients of more or less. There are shades of gray, and that in itself has a greater workability. And I'm going to use these lines here. You can see the plus minus symbol on top. Everything over to the right goes towards betterment. Everything over to the left goes towards getting worse. All right? And as the first thing I want to talk about, briefly about efficiency itself. On the right side, we have efficiency. More and more and more efficiency the further right we go. And on the left, we have waste, and more the further we go. And in the center, we have 50-50, half and half. Okay? And let's take a look at one of the definitions of efficiency. It's the engineering definition, the ratio between input and output. Let me explain that to you. If you drive a car and you put a gallon of gas in your car and you can drive 5 miles, that's not efficient. If you can drive 50 miles, it's getting there. If you can drive 100 miles, that's efficient. Would you agree? Right. Now, the same way, if you advertise, let's say you spend $1,000 in advertising, and you get $30,000 worth of business out of it, that's efficient. If you get only $1,000 worth of business out of it, you have a problem. You have a zero return. You sit right there in the middle of plus minus, right there, and you're in trouble. Okay? Now, the other definition of efficiency is doing any task to completion and good results without wasting time, money, materials, or resources. When we can accomplish that, then we're really efficient. Anytime we start wasting time, or it costs too much, or we use too many materials, or the resources we have, the people we work with, for example, are having to do things that they shouldn't be doing, then we're not efficient. Can you see that? So that's a very key factor in terms of how we do the planning for any kind of an activity. How can we make it most efficient by wasting the least amount of time, money, materials, or resources? Does that make sense to you? Good. Then we'll jump right to the next concept. And interestingly enough, that concept is the concept of right or wrong. Now, I'm not here to go into a philosophical dissertation on what's right or wrong. All I want to mention is this. Nobody likes to be wrong. Nobody. I've never met anybody that came to me and said, "Oh, I was so wrong today. Boy, am I excited about it." Nobody, right? So focusing on wrong gets you more wrong. Focusing on right is getting you more right. So what should you be focusing on? On right, correct? Yeah? Have you ever noticed when you don't feel too good and you look for things that are wrong, why do you find them? Right? Why? Because you're looking for them. And if you're feeling good and you're looking for things that are right, you find lots of things that are right. And that, when you do that, then you become more successful. You'll actually be able to do more and to do more of the right things in life. You're tracking with me on this? Make sense? Good. Now we get to the next concept, and this one is also very interesting because it's the concept of help on the right-hand side and betrayal on the left-hand side. Now, it's a very strong statement, yeah? But let's take a look at what help means. One of the key definitions of help is simply assisting. If you can assist or assisting somebody, you are helping that person. If something assists you, it is helping you. Would you agree with that? Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, but there's a second part to this. If one person in life is moving in one direction and the other person is moving into another direction, they cannot help each other. It's impossible. Let's say, for example, you have a real estate agent, somebody that is interested in helping people in finding the right house to raise a family. That person is moving in that direction. And here we have somebody that has a Harley motorcycle and a tent on his Harley. And he just rides around the country. They cannot help each other. It's impossible. However, if they decide, just for a limited time, just for a limited area of their lives, that they both move in the same direction. Maybe they decide to volunteer in some activity. When they do that, they can help each other. Isn't that true? Right? This is so key that if you miss this concept, no matter in relationships with others, personal relationships, business relationships, relationships between countries, the more we can understand the direction the other is moving in, and the more we can align ourselves to that direction, the more we can help each other. True? Yeah. Right? So, therefore it is actually vital that when we get involved in anything, that one of the factors, the major factors that we take a look at is how can we, what is the direction first of all, and how can we best contribute to that direction? And for a leader, it is also very important that when the direction changes, that he makes every effort that he can to keep everyone working with them and associate with them updated in the change of direction, to make sure that they align themselves to that new change also. All right? Now we get to the next one. This is the concept of control on the right side and chaos on the left side. Now, control can be defined simply as start, change, and stop of any action or activity, plus the willingness to do so. Let me give an example. Let's say you drive a car. You're controlling the car. You start the motion of the car. Yeah? Then you change the direction of the car going down the road, keeping it going down the road, until you have to make a right turn, at which moment you have to stop the motion of the car going straight ahead. And you now have to start initiating the motion of the right turn. And you have to continue doing that until the right turn is accomplished. And then you have to stop doing that. If you don't stop, you go in a circle. Right? Right? Now, at any moment, would you get the idea that in order to make that right turn, you should take out a stick and beat the steering wheel and say, go right now? No, that's silly. Brutal force is not control. Never has been, never will be. Yeah? But intelligent direction is good control. Okay? But there's another factor that goes along with that. Because in our daily lives, what happens is we start an action. We work on it for a while, and what happens? We have an interruption. And that interruption results in a new action. So we start something new. We work on that for a while, then we get interrupted again. And the interruption results in having to start something new. We work on that. Same thing happens, interruption, then we start something else. There comes an interruption, and that interruption usually is the day is over. Now we go home. Do we feel really excited about the day? No, we don't. We feel pretty bad about the day because for us it seems like we were busy all day and we got nothing done. Why is that? We are not able to recognize accomplishments. Right? Now, how to change that? You change that, yeah, and along with that, we get the frustration, you get the stress, right? And how to change that? Simply this. You have to realize that each one of the actions that you started was actually a project. It had more than 2 steps. You were able to do some of the steps, but you haven't done them all. Realizing that each one was a project, you take the very first one and you sit down and work out what are all the steps that you needed to get done to do the project. And while you do this, you realize that you actually did some of those steps already. What happens now? You realize accomplishment. Oh, I accomplished that already. Oh, I did that already. Right? And you start feeling better right then and there already. And then it becomes much easier for you to work out the remaining steps until you get it done, and then you can go the next day and get it done. And you can do this with all of them, and what have you done? You have taken control back over your life. Make sense? Good. Then the last one, but the most important one of them all, is communication on the right and confusion on the left. And let's talk about communication for a moment. Communication basically means a concept or information has to go from one end to the other, from one person to the other person, and there's space between the two of them. The space could be as close as this, it could be across the country, it could be all the way to China, it doesn't make any difference. Okay? But once this concept or information arrives, there are 3 things that must be part for any communication to ever happen. The first one is the person has to be willing to receive the communication. Have you ever been on the receiving end of somebody's angry communication? Has somebody ever talked to you by being very angry? How willing were you to receive that? Right? You just turn off. Let them talk. I don't hear anything. I don't care. Right? So, being angry at someone usually does not result in communication. And if you want to resolve something, you better get out of being angry and start talking in a more reasonable tone if you actually want that communication to be accepted on the other side. Right? Secondly, the person must duplicate the communication. And thirdly, they must understand the communication. And there's a difference between duplication and understanding. Duplicating, I can give you a bottle of water, and you go, oh yeah, it's a bottle of water. But you have no idea why I give it to you. Then I tell you, your hair is on fire, pour it over your head. Now you understand. Now you do it. Right? Yeah? So only when all 3 steps have been accomplished will you get action, the correct action. And in the business world, it is vital to put that communication in writing. Don't go around saying, oh, I need to do this, and I need to call that person, and I need to do all of these things, but don't order them in blue. I want them in red with green stripes on them, and expect it to get done. Put it in writing. Yeah? Keep it simple, keep it concise, yeah? And add one additional factor to that. And that is, at the very bottom of your task, Leave some space for that person to respond back to you, to give you a compliance report. Yeah? So you then know that what you asked to get done actually got done, and you don't have the surprises later on. Okay. So these are the fundamentals on the right. I highly recommend to just focus on those and forget about that. All right? And as a ending off on this, my question to you is, what are you interested in improving in the areas that you are involved in? I recommend to take a moment, note it down, so later on you can take the action necessary to make that happen. Okay, and with that, I thank you very much for listening. Thank you.